What's good? What's going on? Welcome in. Welcome in. Welcome to another episode of the Simply Ball Dropping Podcast coming to you via the YouTube airways. I'm your host and the man behind the mic, K Sap. And today, man, we got a serious show lined up for you guys. But when you come across the video, make sure you like, comment, subscribe. Make sure you got your post notifications on so you know every time Simply Ball Dropping drops another hot banger. And if it's your first time coming across the platform and you're new to the channel, do me a favor. Hit the subscribe button, post your comments, share the video out, give the video a thumbs up. I see everybody in the comments section. Hashtag salute. Man, you guys know what my mantra is. Tell a friend to tell a friend. Might not be for you, but it might be for them. For today's show, man, we're going to get right off into it. Now, Zion Williamson has made headlines over the last couple of days, stemming from the game against the Los Angeles Lakers in the in-season tournament semifinals game. Now, you know, Zion Williamson and the Pelicans, they lost to the Lakers, and Zion had a lethargic showing. But after that game, a lot of people critiqued Zion because of his weight condition. NBA Inside TNT, they covered the game after that, and Charles Barkley and Shaquille O'Neal was talking about Zion Williamson, talking about he looks like he's out of shape. He needs better conditioning. Looked like he was winded, running up and down the court. Now, Charles Barkley has had his issues when he was playing with his weight issues. So when Barkley was talking about it, Barkley was just trying to give him some advice. Same with Shaquille O'Neal. Shaquille O'Neal had that same issue when he was playing with the Lakers, and it's well documented because Kobe Bryant was all over Shaquille about his weight issues and coming into camp out of shape, and he wasn't well conditioned. And Shaquille O'Neal was just basically telling Zion, just go out and get yourself in better condition, get yourself in shape, and get on a diet plan. So it's coming from a good space. But then now you got the mainstream media, and no other than Stephen A. Smith went on national television in front of his national audience and all his viewers on ESPN First Take and really started fat shaming Zion Williamson. Basically saying all the chefs in New Orleans are looking for Zion. When Zion goes out, he just don't eat a meal. He eats the whole table. And basically Stephen A. Smith was saying that's what he's heard and that's what people are talking behind Zion's back. But if that was the case, Stephen A. Smith, you didn't have to really come on national television and say that. Basically, if you're critiquing an athlete and you're critiquing the way they're playing, you could have addressed it saying, hey, just looks like he's out of shape. Looks like, he's not conditioned. But as far as you did, you went to extents to say in that game against the Lakers, you was at the game, you saw him at the foul line, you saw the pudge on his belly, you saw his belly shaking. You don't do things like that. To me, that was a little egregious. And Zion, he addressed reporters yesterday after the win against Minnesota, the bounce back game, where he dropped in 36 points and was real explosive. But the game against the Lakers, it was like the whole team of the New Orleans Pelicans was not in it from start to finish. But Zion said it starts with him. He has to come out and set the tone. And he just had an awful game. But after that game, everybody wanted to make issues of his weight. But, there's reports out there that the Pelicans are kind of concerned about the weight issue and want, Zion to take better, pride in his body and things like that. But, coming out of high school, Zion has always had a big, massive structure. But that hasn't stopped him from the electrifying highlight dunks and getting up the court the way he does, the quick second jump, and just, overpowering his opponents. But, he did that in college as well. It never stopped him from, excelling at the next level and then moving up to the NBA level. But everybody was concerned about his weight coming into the NBA, saying he needs to slim down. He needs to play around about 240, 235, 240. His body's just not constructed that way. He's always had a massive body structure. But, he said it himself, he has to be in better shape. But I go back to last year when Luka Doncic had this same issue where Luka came out and said that he was overweight. He was a little heavy. He needs to get in better shape. But when Stephen A. Smith addressed that issue, he just was saying that, Luka looks winded out there. He looks like he needs to get himself in better condition, but he never fat shamed him. And that's what he was doing with Zion. He was fat shaming him. So Zion took to the podium, addressed the critics after that, and basically said, if it's coming from a good space, he can accept it. But if it's coming from other outside sources, he can't control what another man thinks. And basically, when it's coming from a good space, I think he was referring to Shaquille O'Neal and Charles Barkley, because they played the sport and they was in a similar situation. The other outside noise, he was referring to Stephen A. Smith, because Stephen A. Smith was the only one basically in mainstream media basically fat shaming him. And that touched the people around Zion. That touched his dad. His dad had to give Stephen A. Smith a call to let him know that he didn't appreciate the things that he was saying about his son on national television, revolving around his weight, the way he fat shamed him, basically saying you could have critiqued him, saying, he looks out of shape. He looks like he's not in condition, but the fat stuff, he could have left that alone. And then Stephen A. Smith goes on ESPN First Take today with Molly Curran and Shannon Sharp, and basically tries to double down on that, saying, we want to see you succeed. It's coming from a good space. Well, if Zion would have never made them comments after the game last night, I don't think Stephen A. Smith would have doubled down on what he was saying. Even, the phone call that he got from Zion's dad, he would have never doubled down. Now he wants to backtrack and saying it's all coming from a good space. And the things that he said on national television is what people were saying behind his back. So Stephen A. Smith, he doubled down, he backtracked on some of the things that he was saying. But to go on national television to fat shame him like that, you can critique a player on what you see out there, but to fat shame him, that's, egregious. And that's what people say about Stephen A. Smith. Stephen A. Smith will sit there and literally belittle the black athlete. And that's what they have the issue with Stephen A. Smith, the way he covers certain athletes versus other athletes when they're in the same situation. And that's the problem with mainstream media. But Stephen A. didn't stop there. He went on his podcast and did the same thing, fat shaming Zion. So if y'all want to hear everything that Stephen A. Smith said in the totality, go listen to Stephen A. Smith's podcast. Go ahead and run the tape back of ESPN First Take when they first started talking about Zion after they lost to the Lakers in the semifinals in the in-season tournament. The things that Stephen A. Smith was saying, he didn't have to say that. Shannon Sharp, he said some things, but he didn't fat shame Zion. It's just talking about the Pelicans want, a return on their investment. And Stephen A. Smith goes as far as saying, well, Zion is a great player. The Pelicans only going to go as far as Zion takes them. They can potentially get to the Western Conference Finals if he's in shape and has the condition up, which is rightfully so. That's basically what you had to say. You didn't have to fat shame him and put the fat jokes out there. You got to keep in mind, this is still a young kid. This is his livelihood. And, you don't know how that can affect people when you say stuff about that. The fat jokes, you could have left that alone. But at the same time, I just think in this particular instance, Stephen A., you gotta back a little bit, man. And that's the problem that people have with you, man. You always want to fat shame people and belittle people and then big them up in the same sentence. Got to watch Stephen A. Smith, man. But to me, Zion just needs to go, work on his conditioning. You know what I'm saying? I mean, he says he's working on his condition. You know what I'm saying? He know what he needs to do. And the reports are out there that, he's, the Pelicans are concerned about his weight issue, but the way they're treating it is they're concerned. There's sources out there, resources out there to help Zion out. He got all the money to get him a private chef, to cut back on some of his eating, to get in condition. But for Stephen A. Smith to go on his show and, fat shame him, I just thought that was a little, egregious. But you guys, man, you know how Stephen A. Smith is, man. But Zion is a hell of a ball player, regardless of what he looks like, from the physical aspect. When he's on the court and he's engaged, he flat out gets it done. So you guys, let me know what y'all think, how y'all feel down in the comments section. Please leave your comments, because I We'd love to hear what you got to say. Keep sharing the video out. Give the video a thumbs up. And this is going to wrap up another episode of the Simply Ball Dropping Podcast. I'm your host and the man behind the mic, K-Sap. We're going to catch you on the next one. Deuces.
Thanks for listening to the Simply Ball Dropping Podcast. Be sure to subscribe, like, and share on all major platforms.
Another one.